thinking of Christmas and thinking of Advent. There are no shepherds in this text. There are no angels. Mary and Joseph are nowhere to be found. We don't have some guys carrying gifts on camels making their way to a manger, making their way down. But Jesus is there. As we focus on the gift of Jesus and what that means for us today, I pray that God would comfort you in His love and His grace and His mercy. That He would open the eyes of our hearts to see and understand all that He has for us this morning. Hebrews chapter 10, verses 1 to 10. We read the word of the Lord. For since the law was but a shadow of the good things to come, instead of the true form of these realities, it can never, by the same sacrifices that are continually offered every year, make perfect those who draw near. Otherwise, they would not have ceased to be offered. Since the worshippers, having once been cleansed, would no longer have any consciousness of sins. But in these sacrifices, there is a reminder of sins every year. For it is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins. Consequently, when Christ came into the world, He said, "Sacrifices and offerings you have not desired, but a body you have prepared for me. In burnt offerings and sin offerings you have taken no pleasure. Then I said, Behold, I have come to do your will, O God, as it is written of me in the scroll of the book." When He said above, "You have neither desired nor taken pleasure in sacrifices and offerings, and burnt offerings and sin offerings, these are offered according to the law." Then He added, "Behold, I have come to do your will." He does away with the first in order to establish the second, and by that will we have been sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once for all. Thus ends the reading. Let's pray. God, we thank You for Your word is truth. God, I pray that You would speak through Your word today, that You would perform the miracle that feeds our souls. I pray this in Your name. Amen. So I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's a little hard to believe that Christmas is only a few days away. Like, it's not far. Some of us have probably already begun a lot of our Christmas celebrations, a lot of the traditions and stuff. It always seems like it's like it's so far away, especially as a kid. It's like, it's never gonna get here, and then bam, it's right there, and I have all the presents that I haven't picked up yet that I was supposed to, but it ends up being a mess most of the time. But it comes so fast, and it seems like at the end we're just trying to jam all of the things that we want to do into just a few days. We got to get all the cookies baked. We got to go and see this. We got to go do that. We have all these things. Oh no, it came up too fast. And now we're just trying to jam everything all together so we can get in all the things that we want to do in the holidays. That it can feel sometimes that we don't have time for all the Christmas traditions that we love. Do you have any Christmas traditions at your house? Do you have things that you do during the holidays that you just loved? We've picked up a few over at our house over the years, but my favorite tradition, if it can be called that, because I'm sure most people do it, but I love sitting down on the couch in the morning on Christmas morning, because we open our presents in the morning on Christmas Day as opposed to Christmas Eve, which I found is something that's fairly popular around here. But when I was growing up, it was always Christmas morning, so I love sitting on the couch on Christmas morning. I go down before the kids, Karen and I go downstairs, and then it's you kind of yell up the stairs, all right, you can come on, and all the pitter-patter of the feet running down and seeing the presents for the first time, because we can't put the presents out days before, or I accidentally threw a ball into it and I had to open it like that. Yeah, so we put them all under the tree on Christmas Eve after the kids go to bed, and so they come down the first time. That's when they get to see the presents and just the look on their eyes and the joy, and it's just awesome. I love just sitting there and watching them do that. And part of that is because I love to give gifts. I love to give gifts. And when you give gifts, part of what you're doing is you're trying to get something that the other person is going to want. That's a big part of giving gifts. It's also it's part of the challenge. Am I going to be able to outthink the person I'm giving this gift to? Will I be able to guess what they want? Maybe they don't even realize that they want it, or maybe even need it. So I can surprise them with something that they'll like, something that will suit them, something that will please them, but it's still going to be a surprise. We get Christmas lists. I kind of like to look at the list and then deduce from that maybe what they might want. Because it doesn't seem as fun, just buying a thing off the list. I like the challenge, the thrill, the surprise of trying to find something, trying to surprise the person that I'm giving a gift to. I've been teasing my boys about their gifts this year. You see, because I've got to watch my Seahawks on Sundays, we've had cable for the first time in their lives. Previous to this, we've pretty much just watched Netflix or movies that we own. And so with this introduction to children's programming, they've also been introduced to commercials. And I kind of forgot how much programming, particularly Nickelodeon and Disney Channel and those things, how much that those commercials, they focus on toys for kids. I remember it when I was a kid, watching Rescue Rangers and Tailspin and seeing the guys play with G.I. Joes and yeah, I want that. I kind of thought that just died off, that wasn't a thing anymore, and I was real wrong. It's everywhere on those channels. And it's been kind of fun to watch my boys. One toy that has caught my eye, much to my boys' chagrin, are hair doorables. And I've been teasing my little men, somewhat relentlessly, that they'll all be receiving hair doorables for Christmas this year. And so it's well, you want to watch the commercials? If you want to watch television, the commercials are going to come on. It's just going to remind me that hair doorables are on the way, that they're on the list, and that you're real excited about this. This is something that you really want. If any of my kids were to open a hair doorable doll on Christmas morning, they would be devastated. It got to the point where there's Dad, you can't tease us about that anymore. I'm having dreams that you're giving me a hair adorable for Christmas, and it's freaking me out. Come on, I can't even tease you anymore about this? You actually think this is what I'm gonna get you? Maybe there's a part of me that really wants to, at least have one in there. So they open it up, and it's just no, this is the worst. They would be devastated. Have you ever gotten a gift that you didn't want? Have you ever gotten a gift you didn't want? A gift you didn't like? A gift you wanted to return? Well, we may be thinking of that question as it pertains to Christmas, birthdays and boxes that have been wrapped up or put in a bag with some paper on it. The question goes a little bit deeper than that. At seminary, my systematics professor, Dr. Bowe, had a saying: everything is gifts. So when he assigned a 15-page paper, that was gift. And when he decided that instead of 5 quizzes that semester, we would only have 4, that was also gift. It stretched beyond school, obviously, to encompass everything in life. Did your car break down on the highway? Consider it gift. Did a storm roll through and cause your power company to spend more money on fixing the power lines, and then they so generously passed those added costs onto you by raising your power rates? Consider it gift. Did you receive a raise at work? Consider it gift. Whether it is a task laid before us, an affliction that has set upon us, a relief that we have experienced, or a blessing that we have felt, everything is gift. And when we look at it like that, we realize that, there are a lot of gifts that we would have preferred not to have been given. I just would way rather have not had that. Thank you very much. And my children calling out in frustration and anger at their father, Dad, we didn't want hair doorables. That's not what we wanted. How often do we call out to God, God, I didn't want my friend to move away. I didn't want to lose my job. I didn't want my child to get sick. Which inevitably seems to beg the question, why would you give this to me? Why would you give this to me? That question is too big for me to answer. And it's not for me to answer. The answer to that question is it's between you and God. But I can give you some insight, provide some context for the answer to that question. The first is that it's a gift. And you do not earn a gift. Whatever trial you are going through, it is not because God is smiting you. It's not something you earned, for it has been given to you. You don't get to take credit for the struggles that come your way, just as you don't get to take credit for the blessings that you are given. It is a gift. Can we all just sit in that for a moment? Rest in that. You don't get to take credit for the struggles that come your way, just as you don't get to take credit for the blessings that you are given. It is all gifts. And God is not the postal service. It doesn't drop the gift off, ring the doorbell so that you can make sure that we recognize that it's waiting for us. I love it when that happens at nap time. That's my favorite, when they drop off the present and ding dong, and then I get 2 gifts that particular day, the one on my doorstep and the one crying upstairs in his bed. But they're not UPS. They're not FedEx. They're not the U.S. Postal Service. We see this in Matthew 8, where the disciples are out in the boat. And I know I've told this story about a bunch, but I just love the story. But when they're out on the boat and there's the massive storm, and Jesus is sleeping in the back of the boat. And the storm's just going crazy, and it's all over the place. And the disciples are freaking out. They're like, we're going to die. We've got Jesus in the back of the boat. What is he doing sleeping back here? We're freaking out. Everything's going wrong. We're all going to die. We need to wake this guy up. And so they wake him up, and Jesus is like, what's going on? They're like, can't you see we're going to die? Why are you sleeping? How can you be doing this? And Jesus says, oh, you have little faith. Don't you recognize who I am? And then he calms the storm, and the disciples are like, oh my word, who is this man? Even the wind and the waves obey him. That's who we've got with us through the storm. That's who we've got with us in the boat. It may feel like he's sleeping back there, and we may desire to see that as a negative, but it's not. He is with us in the storm. He does not leave us. He does not drop off a volatile gift, say, here, catch the grenade, have fun, I'm out. He doesn't leave us to walk that path alone, or clean up that mess on our own. Romans 8, 26 and 28 has been such a blessing to me as I've been embroiled in my own personal storm as of late. It reads this, likewise, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. For we do not know what to pray for as we ought, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words. And he who searches hearts knows what is the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for the saints according to the will of God. And we know for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. God knows what we need. And he knows that we can't even express it to him sometimes in our need. And all things work together for good for those who love the Lord, for those who are called according to his purpose. Now that passage can be abused. And it has been abused. To make it seem like we'll get what we want if we love God. That's how we kind of want to interpret that passage. But that's not what the passage is saying. It's saying that whatever struggle you are going through right now, whatever blessing you are experiencing, all of it is being used for God's glory. It's being used for God's glory. Nothing happens to you by accident. But that is a gift from God, and all of that is for his glory. It all is used for his purposes. It is all used by God to bring about his kingdom. And yet, even though we know that, man, it can be hard when we get gifts that we don't want. I remember, man, I was probably about 8 or 9. I think about 9. And we had had done the whole, I came down the stairs and my parents were the ones on the couch, and I was like super excited because underneath the tree was this big gift, and it had my name on it, and it was a bigger gift than I had like gotten in like ever, and I was super ecstatic about getting this particular gift. And I saved it to the end because I was like, that's how I do it. I eat all the things I don't like first, and then I get to enjoy like the pudding or whatever it may be afterwards that I'm excited about. So the vegetables get either thrown out or eaten first, and then I eat all the stuff that I like. Like that's just kind of how I do things. So I saved delayed gratification, I believe they call it, but I saved this package until the end. And I opened it up, and it was like my heart just fell out because my mother had given me a set of blankets. It was blankets and sheets. And it was like, are you kidding me? Like, this is what I get for Christmas? I get blankets and sheets. I mean, that's wonderful for like a Tuesday, Mom. But we're like, this is Christmas. Like, I'm supposed to be excited about this. I was so not happy about it. I mean, you try to put on a good face because it's Christmas and you don't want to like destroy your mother. Hopefully she's not listening to this right now, but we've kind of had this conversation before a little bit. But I was not excited about getting a bedspread for Christmas. And this was my like big gift. Like, Mom was super thrilled to give me this gift, and I was like, what? I didn't even know what it was at first. I was like, where's the toy? Like, how do I turn it on? And then, no, Daniel, it's blankets, and it's going to be really comfortable. What? We did this thing at our house where we had like, I mean, this is dating me a little bit, but we had like this Sears catalog. I guess now you'd have like your Amazon wish lists probably is how that would happen. But we had this Sears catalog that would come to our house probably around like early December. And all of the kids, we'd get around and we'd write our names on the things that we wanted. And it was Mom and Dad's way of kind of getting an idea as to the things that we wanted. And so you'd go through it. I mean, if there was like Nintendo or G.I. Joes or Legos or something like that, my name was like written all over those things. And you always knew where the hot tub page was because all of the kids' names were written on like the hot tub. Even those that couldn't write their own names, we made sure that they got on there. So the Mom and Dad knew this would be a great idea. Like if you really wanted to surprise us this year, hot tub, that's the way to go. My name was never written on blankets and sheets. Like it was never there. If I had been thinking ahead or had any, I would have just taken that paper out of the Sears catalog and put that somewhere where we could forget about it forever. My name was never written on blankets and sheets. 9-year-old me was so disappointed with that gift. And I tried to put on a brave face. I tried. But I mean, Mom knew. I mean, she could look at me. She just knew that I would have rather had, the new Transformer or the G.I. Joe, a Nintendo or that Lego set. And despite all of that, I mean, she knew before she gave the gift that that's what I would rather have. But despite all of that, she still gave me blankets and sheets. As we turn our focus towards Christ, as we see Christ in this passage, as we look at his birth and his life, and the response to his teaching, to his message, it is clear that Jesus, that little baby in the manger, was not the gift that people wanted. People were expecting a conqueror. They were expecting a political ruler who would free them from the Romans, establish a Jewish kingdom again, and fulfill the promises as they understood them that were made in the Old Testament. This is what they wanted. This is the gift that they were looking for. This is the king that was supposed to be coming. This is what was supposed to be wrapped up and put underneath the tree. This was supposed to be their present, their gift from God. The years of suffering and slavery and living without a homeland, that would all be made okay. It would all be justified once their ruler came and their kingdom was established. This is what they wanted. This is what they expected. And that is not at all what they got. Not according to their expectations, anyway. They didn't understand that Jesus, even though he wasn't the king they wanted, that he was the king that they needed. He was the king they needed. Because they had been living under a placeholder. To make up for their sin, for the wrongs that they committed. They would sacrifice animals. The type of animal, that would depend on your income level. It could be a sheep, it could be a dove, it could be a goat, it could be a lamb. But they had to be spotless. They had to be worth something. And you take this animal to the temple and you give it to the priest, and the priest would sacrifice it to appease God for the wrong that you had done. This was what society, this is what they operated under. This is how they worked. This is how they dealt with sin. But that system was never intended to be the final system. It was not intended to be the final answer for sin in the world. Our passage this morning talks about that. Our passage says that this sacrifices these animals that were sacrificed year after year, they cannot fulfill the law. They can't make the person perfect. For if that were the case, if they could make a person cleansed of sin, then they wouldn't have to keep sacrificing them. It would be a one-time thing, and not something that is repeated over and over and over again. Verse 4 just stuck in my brain as I digested it. For it is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins. The animals couldn't do it. And our text continues. Consequently, when Christ came into the world, he said, sacrifices and offerings you have not desired, as he's talking to God, but a body have you prepared for me. In burnt offering and sin offerings you have taken no pleasure. So then I said to Jesus, behold, I have come to do your will, O God, as it is written of me in the scroll of the book. Jesus recognizes that the sin offerings of the sheep and the goats and the bulls and the doves, they're not doing the trick. And then he says, I have come to do your will, O God. And now we know what that will was and is. Though he was despised and rejected, the gift that nobody wanted, Jesus was the gift that everyone needed. Not just the Jews, but the entire world, all of us. For Jesus lived the perfect life that we could not. He faced every form of temptation. He was confronted with every type of sin, and yet he stayed pure. He stayed sinless. He stayed perfect. And as was the will of the Father, he took the burden of all the sin of all the world to the cross, and there he paid the price for it by dying on that cursed tree. And 3 days later, he rose from the dead, defeating sin and death. And unlike the animals, unlike the goat and the dove and the sheep and the bull, this sacrifice was one time for all time. Through faith in this sacrifice, we joined with Jesus in his death, and in his resurrection, we have put on Christ through faith. And so when God looks at us, he doesn't see us in our sin. Instead, he sees Jesus. As I think of Jesus, that little baby lying in the manger, the gift that nobody wanted, I'm reminded of that blanket set that my mother gave me. Though it was absolutely not something that I wanted, that blanket became something very dear to me. It was the comfiest blanket I ever owned. It kept me warm in the cold Canadian nights. It sponged my tears of anger and pain. It comforted me in times of loss and heartbreak. And that blanket was with me for years. It became a bit of a treasured possession for me. It was our blanket when Karen and I first got married. I was still using that thing. The gift that I despised became the best gift I had been given. And so it is with Jesus, this little baby in the manger. Only he could satisfy the demands of our sin. Only he could be the sacrifice that set things right with the Father. And so he came and he lived and he died and he rose again. And through faith in him, we have been reconciled to God. What a gift. What a treasure. What a present for us. As we leave here today and go about our day, as we prepare for Christmas, as maybe we get in some last-minute shopping, as we spend time with family and friends and devour our cookies and food, and let us rest in the gift that we have been given. Let us take joy in knowing that the price has been paid. Let us praise our God together forever for the wonderful gift of Jesus.